readers, last time we met, we worked on inferring, that we really focused on how we used evidence from the text to help us make inferences. Well, today our teaching point is readers identify who is telling the story by asking who is telling the story and how do I know? So there's two questions. This is really important. One of the things that you may see or hear is what point of view is this story told from? So every story has a narrator. And the narrator is the person who is telling the story. And if a story is told from first person, the narrator is the main character. So first person, the narrator is the main character. And if it's told from first person, the main character is telling the story, and you're going to hear words like I, mine, all of those words that show that it's one person, okay? My would be another word. So it's like the main character is telling the story. If it's third person, someone outside the story is telling it. So third person, outside person telling the story. It's not the main character. And I want you to think right now, if with first person you'd hear words like I, mine, my, and the character is telling the story, I want you to turn knee to knee and think about what kind of words you would hear if it's third person and someone outside the story is telling it. Which partner? Turn right there. You two and you two. Back to me. I am going to read a little bit of Josh McGuire, and we're going to decide if it's first person or third person. Some of us were having a hard time with that, so I'm going to help you. And we're going to listen to some of the words. Okay? "13-year-old Josh McGuire crouched behind a log 40 yards upslope from the water. Wide-eyed, he stole a glance up at his father Sam, who firmly lowered his rifle." There were some key words in there that shows you it's third person. Who wants? Donovan?
His.
His. Okay. His.
He.
He. If it's a girl, it would be her or she. And they also use the character's name. They use the character's name. So one thing that really helps us is we ask, who is telling the story and how do I know? So the question we're going to be deciding, is it first person or is it third person? And how do I know that? In Rescue Josh McGuire, I know it's being told third person. I know it's someone outside the story is telling it because they said the character was Josh McGuire and they referred to him as he and his and him. They're not saying I. If it were in first person, it would say I am Josh McGuire and he would be telling the story, but someone else is telling the story, so it's told in third person. So one of the things that you may be asked to do as a reader is to identify whether your piece is told first person or third person. So you're going to identify who's telling the story by asking who is telling the story, how do I know? What's the key words to knowing that it's first person? I, my, mine, just like you were telling the story. If it's third person, it's an outside character, someone outside the story, and they use those pronouns his, her, he, she. It's not the main character telling the story, it's someone else. So you have to decide who it is, and how do you know that? It's the main character. I know that because it's in first person. They're saying, I did this. Oh, this story's third person, and I know because somebody else is talking about the main character. Somebody else is talking about Josh McGuire, and they're using words like he and his. So today, what I want you to decide is if your book, if you can figure out who's telling the story first, and then decide if it's first person or third person. And when we get ready to share today, you're going to get with your partner and you're going to tell them whether your book is being told first person or third person and how you know that. Do we have clues to help us remember?
Mm-hmm.